AFTV Turkish, we both wanted a convincing performance. Do you think we got one today?
Yeah, convincing result. I'm still, concerned about performance because I still don't see the fluidity that I would have expected, off the back of last season moving into this season. And by that, I mean clear-cut chances. I think, the result was convincing for sure. And that's what it's all about, 3 points. And it definitely helps our goal difference, albeit very early in the season. But I think against Manchester City especially, we're going to have to level up and be a bit more fluid.
Listen, let's talk about the team news to start with, because a lot of groans and concerns in the studio about Eddie and Jesus being similar to what we saw at the North London derby. Havertz coming in there. Is there any reason as to why you think this is happening? Listen, they played well today, Eddie and Nketiah and Jesus, but it seems to me that Jesus on the left-hand side and Eddie through the middle, people aren't too sure about it. What did you make of them today?
I think that goes a long way in explaining the fluidity I just mentioned before. Yeah. I think we lack it without Jesus up top. That's nothing against Eddie and Nketiah, because today, especially for the first 2 goals, I think he played a part in them. The first one, he actually carried the ball into the half and laid it out to Saka. And obviously the second one, he won the penalty. So he played a part in both the goals that pretty much saw off the game early on. It's just overall, when I look at us and the chances created, Chelsea have created more big chances than us this season. So as much as, yes, the 3 points matter the most and it's a convincing result, it's 4 goals away from home and a clean sheet. Like I said, we've got, the best team in world football coming to the Emirates next Sunday. And I think we do need to level up. And I do think we need to move back to Jesus up top, and hopefully Martinelli and or Trossard are available for that game. I expect Martinelli to be available from what Arteta said over the last couple of weeks. He looks touch and go every week. And I think that'll go a long way in answering why our fluidity hasn't quite matched up to last season yet.
Yeah, man, listen, there's still players to come back for sure. Wanted to ask you who stood out for you today in terms of the players. There was quite a few out there today that I thought had a really good game. A lot of people are mentioning Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice has got a mention, and Saliba as well. It's good when that happens, because it means there's not just one guy that we're trying to go through at the moment, which, to be fair, over the last few years, perhaps Saka has been that one. Who stood out for you, man?
I think you said the 2 names that are worth mentioning more than any other, and that's Rice and Odegaard. I think Odegaard's needed to step up. Obviously against Tottenham, he had a great first 15 minutes. I think he was the best player on the pitch, and then he got the yellow card, and he was one of the worst after that. So he picked it back up, and I think he wanted the ball. He was offering himself. He was linking up play. And Declan Rice, game week 7. And I'm already getting tired of saying how good he is. I think he was man of the match for me. I think that's, maybe his 4th man of the match, 5th man of the match for us this season in the first 7-8 games, all competitions. And I think aside from them 2, everyone played a part. Those 2 just stood taller than everyone else for me in terms of owning that midfield and pretty much making sure Bournemouth had nothing else going the other way.
Listen, I've got to mention him. You've been critical of him over the last few weeks. Kai Havertz got his goal today. Good penalty, to be fair. What did you make of his overall performance? Are you seeing anything at the moment that you're okay with or more improved at all?
I'm not going to let a penalty cloud my vision, because overall, Havertz, that was a similar performance to every single one he's put in this season. I think off the ball, there's some perks, there's some pros for sure. On the ball, I'm yet to see anything. And that's what I assume we bought him for, especially in the position we're deploying him in, and the development of Arteta's philosophy off the back of last season to this season. We had Xhaka. We went for a more supposedly attack-minded 8, and I'm yet to see him have a real influence in the final third. So yes, he got his goal, and hopefully that gives him the confidence, if confidence is the thing that is hampering him, because that's what a lot of people seem to say. I don't know where that comes from, but apparently confidence is a big factor. So hopefully that goal and the way the rest of the team got around him leads him to kick on, because against Manchester City, if he starts, he's going to need to kick on. I doubt there'll be any penalties given to him 3-0 up against Man City. So if he starts, then hopefully he does kick on. Overall, I'm still waiting to see what we bought Havertz for. But we won the game, so I won't dwell on it too much.
Listen, just lastly on that point, you said you want him to kick on, and I think everybody does, right? I'm no different. What does he have to do to you to try and convince you that this signing is actually coming off? Because it is on few games, but he has had 3 seasons in England at Chelsea. What does Kai Havertz have to do to convince you, Turkish?
Want it. I think he needs to want it from minute one. And by that, I mean exactly what I said about Odegaard today. He was showing for the ball. He wanted it. He was linking up play. I need to see that from Havertz too. Yes, people might say different roles, but they're not too dissimilar roles, especially if it's more a 2-8 than it is a 8 and a 10. And that's how I see it. It's more 2-8s. And when I look at Manchester City and where that originally has come from with Mikel Arteta learning from Pep, if De Bruyne's on the pitch, Bernardo Silva still wants the ball. He still wants to pull strings. David Silva used to still want the ball, still wanted to pull strings. So it's not all on Odegaard now in that attacking third. In my opinion, Havertz needs to step up and be another Odegaard in that role where it can take attention away from Martin, and it can also, give some life to Havertz. I just need to see him on the end of things and in the build-up of things a little bit more. I'm not going to completely talk about statistics with him moving forward because, yes, he does work off the ball, but the reality is we need some goals and assists from him. And, next Sunday would be perfect.
Yeah, it would, man. We move on to midweek again in the Champions League. But, of course, our attention is then brought back to the Premier League with Manchester City, who lost today, Turkish. How has that made you feel?
Crazy. I can't lie because after the Tottenham game, a lot of people said I overreacted and, a lot of fans apparently overreacted. I don't think I did because it's a North London derby and there's more behind that than just looking at Man City and dropping points, even though at that time it was drop points. The thing about Manchester City is they don't drop points often in a season, whether that be losses or draws. We need to be in a position to fully capitalise on any drop points. And we capitalised today by catching up to them. But now we need to go toe to toe. We can't afford to be going into, especially January, 4, 6, 8 points behind. So today was perfect. We got a 4-0 win. Manchester City lose. And that could hamper their confidence. The buzzword seems to be confidence these days. And we can only hope and pray for the best. They've just lost 2 games, but there's a Champions League fixture midweek. So I know Frank said, they don't often lose 3 games in a row. Well, they can bounce back in the Champions League and then that could all be reset for next Sunday. Am I confident about next Sunday? Let's get through the Champions League first, because today, if there's one thing I have to mention on the negative side is that Mikel waited way too long to keep Bukayo Saka on the pitch. I mean, I'm hoping he'll be fit and ready to go next Sunday, but the way he couldn't put pressure on that foot or the ankle, whatever it was, is concerning. I think Mikel needs to protect him a bit more. Out of all the players he's had over the last, 2, 3, 4 years, Saka's the one that seems to just week in, week out, 90 minutes, 85 minutes. He doesn't seem to get a rest, and this type of injury seemed inevitable. The amount of, collisions he's in and the amount of tackles he's involved in a game. It's the worst time for it before City. We can only keep our fingers crossed and hope that it isn't as bad as it looks. But I think Mikel needs to learn and hopefully he does moving forward, that there are some games, especially when you're 3-0 up, you can take Starboy off.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, if he is out, who's going to start? I mean, there's a lot of rumours at the moment that there's Nelson and there's Smith-Rowe knocking on the door, Trossard and Martinelli rumoured to be in and around, coming back. Who would get the nod for you if Saka's not going to be fit for this Man City game, man?
Assuming that Martinelli or Trossard's available for the left, Jesus goes back up top and I'm going Reece Nelson on the right. And I know a lot of the last 18 months, we've seen Reece Nelson in the left forward position, but he grew up on the right. So I'm not against putting him on the right. And I think when we were playing Manchester City, a team that are going to try dominate and keep possession, I think you need a bit of width and pace on the counter. And as much as in other games, I'd select Vieira to step in for Saka, I think this one needs that pace and directness that Reece Nelson brings. So I'd be going with Reece.
I agree, man. Let's hope they're all fit. Big up, Turkish.
Love, bro.